Hello, everybody. This is me with my podcast voice. It sounds pretty stupid, but welcome to, don't be laughing now. Welcome to Next Week's Life. It's a podcast designed to connect basically people, technology, and business. And all of you were hand-chosen by a very wise man, not necessarily me, but a very wise man. Hero, I think, told me. So welcome to the show. We're going to have a little bit of fun today. And if you don't mind, I'm going to, instead of introducing you, which is what I normally do, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves individually, and then we're going to come back and get to the meat of the podcast for today. So, Jenna, I'm going to start with you since I know you the least.
Yes, we're strangers. My name is Jenna Stramaglio. I am the Channel Development Manager at ConnectWise. Many of you have probably seen me, known me, or our paths have crossed. I've been in the industry since 2005, and I've worked for a variety of different companies. Most recently, All Covered before my ConnectWise position, and prior to that, MWA with Mike for a long, fun, 12, 13, 14 years. And also started my career selling copiers, trained by Kate, which you'll hear from here in just 1 second. So I have been in the industry for quite some time. It's been a wild ride. Thanks for having me, Mike.
You are very welcome. Thanks for joining us. And if I remember right, you were the kid that was hiding under my desk at work. So you
Yes.
Truly do have toner in your blood. So welcome, Jenna.
Unfortunately, however, yes, thanks. Happy to be here.
So if you don't mind, I'm going to move along. Kate, if you can introduce yourself to the audience, appreciate it.
Sure. Hi, I'm Kate Kingston. I own a company here in New York City called the Kingston Training Group. And all I've done for the last 24 years is exclusively train business technology sales executives to prospect more effectively at the decision maker level with a vertical focus across 60 industries. And I sort of made it all up as I went along, and I do guarantee some results. So I've had the pleasure of working with lots of different dealerships and interacting with great women and men in business like Jenna in their pursuit of enhancing their profitability.
Well, welcome, Kate. Thank you. And your reputation precedes you by a million miles. You are one of the best leaders in the industry, and we thank you for joining us today. So, Shannon, I'm going to turn it over to you. If you can give us a little history about you and your life at DLL, that'd be great.
Sure. Thank you for having me. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shannon Stangl. I started in the equipment finance industry about 25 years ago. All of my time in the equipment finance industry has been spent at DLL in a variety of different positions. When I first started there, I fixed every cost per copy contract that we booked incorrectly. So I learned a lot about pay per use and cost per copy. And quickly realized I wanted to be part of the commercial team. So I've been on the commercial side of the business for DLL for about 24 years. Today, I'm the head of regional sales for North America for our office equipment group. So I'm responsible for strategy and the initiatives around our commercial business for the office equipment group for both the U.S. and Canada. And I think, like I said, I just want to thank you for having me today, and I really feel honored to be here with both Jenna and Kate. Thanks, Mike.
Well, you are very welcome. Believe me, we're the ones that are honored to have you. And I am going to ask Gavin to introduce himself and explain your makeup today.
Well, actually, I'm Ed McMahon for Mike here. I'm comic relief, but I've had the pleasure of working with Mike for 15 years, part of Stramaglio Consulting. Met Mike the first time when I was at Icon, when he was talking about pagers on the back of copiers. So as long as we're talking about history, that goes back quite a ways to when we were collecting meters through paging devices. So really happy to be here with everybody.
Thanks, Gavin.
And
by the way,
a great show.
Do you remember way back when people told us automated metering will never work? They'll never do it.
Yeah.
It'll never.
I remember sitting in an executive meeting at Icon and someone saying $220 to collect an automated meter.
And here we are
That's too
25
expensive.
years later, and they're indispensable.
Really?
So I'll take props for that one. We had a really good idea.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it didn't work out as great as we thought, but it was
Yep.
it was a great opportunity. So, all right. So here's the big first question I always ask everybody, and it's a very important question. What is your Frank Sinatra song? Which is your favorite Frank Sinatra song? So, Jen.
All right, this one's so easy. And it's probably not the song you think I'm going to choose, but it's That's Life by Frank Sinatra because there's always haters, right? You're living life, you're riding high, you got dreams, sometimes you succeed, sometimes you fail, but that song embodies the dream of people kind of saying you can't do it, it's too hard, you're never going to, amount to what you want to amount to, and that song is all about the underdog, and if you have a failure, you get up, you try again, and that's my favorite Frank Sinatra song. Probably not what you thought, Mike.
No, it isn't what I thought, but it is why we chose the name for the show, Next Week's Life. That's life.
Well, I bet you didn't think it was going to be that song, though.
No, well, I didn't think you were going to pick it, but it's, hey, I've been a piper, a pauper, a piper, a king.
Yep.
So up and down, over and out. So great choice. And Kate, how about you?
So you would think it was New York, New York, because I'm a New Yorker, or Luck Be a Lady, because I'm a girl, but it's The Way You Look Tonight. And then also in 1961, he recorded Blue Moon, which I love because I used to be an actor and I was in Greece, not on Broadway or anything. And I was Jan and I sang that song in Greece. So those two I like the more of the romantic songs.
Wow. Well, usually there's a reason why those songs are chosen, so we'll let people wonder, but romantic songs are always my favorite. So, except for That's Life. I
think
That's
that
Life.
there's a dichotomy with women who are forceful or leaders in the industry. There's also the other side. And so I think that Jen and I were chatting before, and she was like, "Ooh, it's a little intimidating." I've heard that before when I'm a trainer, and I just think that's so funny because I don't see myself that way. But you can come off, especially in business, when you need to control a room with men and women in it. But I think there's also the other side of women in business and in our own lives. And I'm a girly girl, so I like those songs that talk about romance.
Well, again, great choices. And I'm going to come back to this a little bit later on the song choices and what it potentially could mean to you and to me as far as how we manage ourselves on a daily basis. So, Shannon, how about you? Which one did you choose?
Yeah, so this was a little bit harder for me, as I said a little bit earlier in the conversation today. But after I thought about it, I remembered a time, a long time ago, where My Way was sung to both my husband and I at our wedding. After my brother-in-law's brother had a few drinks, he decided it was a good idea to join the band, and that was the song that he sung to us. So that's why I chose it.
Well, I love the song. Obviously, it's the Sinatra national anthem, and I think that was your brother-in-law?
My brother-in-law's brother.
Awesome. Well, I admire him and his courage, and I hope you videotape that somewhere.
We have it on video, yes.
All right. So, Gavin, you're the last one I'll pick. What is it?
So you know what it is, and you and Jenna, especially since you worked with me for so long, My Way. I never
Gavin
argue.
Williams
I
way.
explain why I'm right, which until Mike shuts me down, and then I have to go with, okay, you're right. But the other, and also with the memory, I have a fond memory of Mike and my wife Johanna singing My Way in a bar in Mexico that I do have video of, and if anybody wants to email me, I can send it to you for $10 a pop.
I'd like to see it. I don't think I've seen it.
Very entertaining.
No, but I do have one with me singing in Vegas with the group, so I'll share that one. It's actually on key. So this is kind of an interesting question. When I hear My Way, and again, this is somewhat of I think a little bit of perspective, a learning perspective, right? So when I hear My Way, of course, Frank Sinatra sings it. My Way means everything to, to people who followed his career and all of that. But it never occurred to me that My Way there would be It's a man song, right? So this goes to the heart of, the differences, I think, between the way men and women think sometimes. So Frank Sinatra's a guy. He sang the song. He belts it out. It's a Frank Sinatra song. So I mentioned that one time not too long ago to somebody who was very articulate, and she very quickly pointed out that my way was not gender related. So I have learned a very important lesson that is a really bad assumption to make. And it kind of brings me to, and again, it's part of the learning process. So all of you have been in the business for, similar lengths of time. You've gone through varying degrees of change, whether it be leasing modifications or MPS or, technology automation, or in Kate's, classic, I think, example, where you've had to teach, probably, I don't know what they are, Gen Xers, millennials. You've got the full gamut of people, mid to top to little, meaning incoming people. So when you began your careers as executives or beginning people on the executive path, what is one of the single biggest pieces of advice you would give either to male or female about how to conduct themselves, be successful? What big mentoring advice would you give to the people in the business today, regardless of age, really, but probably more or less people that are just coming in? So as people who have been in the business, ladies that have been in the business, hugely successful from either a corporate or entrepreneurial perspective, is there something that jumps out at you that says, don't do that, you need to do this?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And I think, like, in terms of advice, what I always like to tell new people when they join our organization is don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to try new things, fail quickly, learn from them, and try things a different way. And I think the other thing that I like to always instill in new members as they join our organization is around the fact that consistency is so much more important than perfection. And I think if they just think about those things as they learn our business, that they'll be very successful.
So Shannon, a follow-up question for you, and please, for everyone else, think about what I'm going to ask her. So when you're in the position of training or influencing people who are coming in or into a new role, is your advice, do you consciously think, all right, I have to use these words for a lady versus a man? Is there anything that you calculate that says, okay, this is a little different and I have to approach it this way? Or does it matter?
No, to me, it doesn't matter, but I think what matters is that everybody is a little bit different. So the way that I approach my team is get to know them and their personalities and how they respond to feedback and how they respond to different situations. And I try to gear my conversations and coaching sessions with them around that. I think, I'm a very direct person. My team will tell you, like, I will always tell you where you stand, but I expect them to always tell me where I stand with them and if I'm doing something incorrect. So I think I don't see it differently by gender. I just think everybody's a little bit different and handles things in a different way. And I try to approach each of them as individuals.
Good input. And I like that. How about you, Jen?
I think the most important piece of advice, there's two that I got, and it could be summed up probably in two very simple words. One is initiative, and the second is passion, right? So I think two very important things. You can have the best mentors and you can have the best people around you. And I think if you don't find the passion for the solution you're selling or the drive to be the best or whatever your mission is, you are going to have a harder time succeeding. So I think you really need to believe in you as a person, you as the product you're selling. And also, if you don't take that first step of making a decision to do something, that initiative to make sure, hey, I want to make ConnectWise and the Perch product that I'm selling the best possible cybersecurity messaging that I could ever want the world to know, you're not going to have that passion in your everyday work life. So I think passion and initiative. And then one final thing, when I was younger and Kate trained me, and I told her I would have like sweat marks. She would train me and I'd be like, oh my God, here's Kate. Oh, God, she's going to have that stupid mirror. She's going to tell me to stand up when I talk and make those cold calls. And she's going to tell me to smile when I speak. And I'd have all this anxiety. And I think one of the things that I learned from Kate is that you're just talking to another person on the other end of the line. It's not the president of the United States. It's just Mike, and he owns a company and he is very successful, but he is still a person, and you can still can make a very real connection with that person. So once you kind of just strip down the anxiety and the nerves, that will also, I think, help you make yourself, you'll be more successful in life, whether that's personally or professionally. So a couple of simple things there, but I think that kind of just summarizes it. But yeah, Kate gave me sweat marks. I was sweating over there in 2005.
Well, it's good input. And the thing I like about what both of you have said so far, shared so far, is that it's really not about any particular thing other than the individual, right?
Right.
So making sure you're focused on the things that are important to getting the work done on those people. Now, Kate, you are clearly more on the teaching side and the process side, and you've seen a lot of people basically come through the ranks. I'm kind of curious how you feel about, and it's kind of interesting to me that Jenna actually pointed that out after so many years. Apparently that mirror left her with a little anxiety. So that's pretty funny. So Kate, what do you think about the same questions?
Well, so I know that there are certain indicators for success in the business around at least the prospecting piece. First of all, it is being first. Like being early at work, that when you work at a company, management wants to see you there early, even if you stay late. They want to see you early. Number two, starting your work week on a Friday afternoon, not a Monday. People like me are going to bulldoze over you if you're not starting your work week on a Friday, because then you can plan things out, you can look ahead, and then you're already running. And one of the things that I do that I try to teach the people that I'm training is that on the weekends, 1 hour on the weekend of reading or absorbing content is like 4 hours during the work week. And we're on a podcast, and I do listen to Bethany Frankel's occasionally because she deals with outliers. And I'm always interested in what highly successful people are doing. And she had Mark Cuban on. I don't really care about the Mavericks, but he said, along with Warren Buffett, has said that reading, that's the reason they're successful. Absorbing content 3 hours a day, Mark Cuban says. I say to the people that I'm working with, it's 3 hours a week. It's a TED Talk. It's a vertical interview in terms of KTG. It's a business book. I read at least 2 business books a month, as well as People magazine. So I'm your celebrity gossip girl, but I also know something about business. And what you eat is what you are, and what you read is what you talk about.
So follow-up question for Kate, and then I'm going to come back to the ladies again. So given how many thousands of people you've trained, what do you do when you're in a class or a series of classes where you look at a group and you say, you know what, that person should be a nurse, should not be in sales, should not be, what do you do, when you run into that?
I'll also start with what you were talking about before. I do talk a little differently to the men than the women, especially men that are older. Now, I'm older than always older than me, but men want to hear me say, I'm going to act as your assistant. They want me to come a little softer. I'm sort of a forward, highly energized person. And with men, I pull back a little bit. If it was a room just full of women, first of all, we complement each other. We're community more than the men, right? It's not as competitive from the get-go, where I see in the training rooms. So I know that has been some differentiators. You got to sort of get them on your side and not make them feel that you're better than them. I have seen that to be the case. And then what I'm trying to help them do when they're coming in to be successful, if that's the question, if somebody isn't right, part of my job is to tell managers they don't have it, right? You can't train with me for 4 months and be making calls and not get it if you can get it. It's just not meant for everybody, prospecting and sales. Sometimes I go, be in service, right? There's different jobs at the dealership. And I think that's okay to help them find the position where they can be passionate, from what Jenna said, but also successful.
That's interesting. So you do occasionally, at least, find yourself modifying your communication skills in some cases with.
Always at the beginning, because you can't come in so hot, because men kind of go like that. And especially older men are like, who's this woman coming in telling me how to do stuff? So you have to come in softer, and then you sort of can build up. And hopefully when they see the content, they kind of go, okay. But I'm trying to get them to make phone calls in front of their colleagues and maybe falter. So it does take a little bit of maneuvering, and it's different with men, with women, with that, for sure.
Okay, noted. This is going to be good because I love the contrast. And by the way, Jenna, don't be coming in hot. Don't be coming in hot on your CEO.
That's like my MO. I think Jenna Stramaglio
Kate, you missed that part with her when she was working at MWA.
It's just all gas all the time. Gas.
Yes,
Yeah.
for me too. Oh my God.
All right, so we're going to change it up a little
out.
bit. And Kate, honestly, I really appreciate that candor. I think there's probably conscious and subconscious methods that we apply, just because of the individual or the situation that we might be in. So that's really good input. So Shannon and Gavin, hang loose. We're gonna focus on the ladies here for a few minutes. But Shannon, when you look at, you've been with one company, I think you said, for pretty much your whole career.
Pretty much. I had one previous job, which was maybe lasted a year before I came to DLL after college. Yes, I've been here most of my.
So pretty much you went from Penn
professional
State
life.
to DLL.
Pretty much,
And
yes.
it's been,
And now I have two sons at Penn State, and my husband's from Penn State, so we are definitely a Penn State family.
wow, that's fantastic. I love that. So coming from, you've got some really wonderful history, right? You've got Penn State in your family. You've got DLL as part of your family life and your business life. So having come through 20 some whatever years and gone through all the iterations and many changes, has the culture of DLL, what's kept you there that long? I mean, that's an intriguing amount of time.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I interview potential members that are interested in coming to DLL, I tell them a few things. And one of the things I tell them is that we have a very family-oriented culture at DLL, and we believe in 4 values. We believe in teamwork. We believe in being really passionate about what you do. We believe in being able to count on each other. And I think maybe the most important thing is we really want our members to develop themselves. And so we always say to them, like, development starts with you as a member. And we're here to support you as a leadership team, and we will do whatever we can to get you, promoted throughout the organization or into a different role if that's what you so desire. But for me, I always tell potential candidates that you will know within 90 days of joining our organization on whether there's a career path there for you for a long period of time, a lifer. And if that culture doesn't fit you, that's okay. It's just you'll be moving on probably in 2 to 4 years, and you'll go to a different organization where the culture is a better fit for you. But for me personally, I've always had very good leaders and very good managers at DLL. And I've been able they've challenged me, they've given me different things to learn. I said earlier I was on the business support side of the business. I came to the commercial side of the business. And now I participate in the U.S. leadership team and the office equipment global management team. But all of that has given me an opportunity to continue to challenge myself, make more money, and really, like I just said, be challenged more than anything and continue to learn. And I'm very passionate about DLL. I love the organization. And that's why I'm still there. And I wouldn't be there if I didn't feel that way. So it's a very good spot for me personally. I met my husband there. My husband also works at DLL. And he's been there for about 15 years now. And so it's been tremendous for me, both professionally and personally.
Well, I hope you're not talking about business at home every night, but
We do. That's the joke. We sit on our laptops beside each other at night, watching TV, doing work,
awesome.
asking each other questions.
So I'd like to have a follow-up question with you on this. That's a long time at one company. In today's world, it's kind of unique, right? Although the three of you have done the same thing for many years, so that's kind of interesting perspective. Who would you say, if you would like to say, who would you like to give props to as your greatest mentors? Who did you learn the most from, and what was it? What really motivated you by them or for them?
Yeah, it's so hard to pick just one person because I think there's so many great members at DLL. But all of my sales managers, and then of course, I think if I had to think about the biggest impact that somebody's had on me is about 3 years ago, I decided I was going to work on a development plan to get into the position that I'm in today. And I wanted to find a very strong woman leader at our organization that was not in a commercial role, so I could get a different perspective from her. So I would say, one of the biggest supporters of me and somebody who's been able to really allow me to see things in a different way is our Chief Legal Officer, Lisa. And she's been a tremendous supporter of mine, and I really appreciate her. So for me, that's, probably the most recent example, but one that I just am really thankful that I have her. And again, she doesn't do what I do, and I don't know anything about really what she does other than be a tremendous leader. But she really just has a very good business sense, coaches me, guides me, and really supports me as a female leader in our organization. So I'm very, very proud of that relationship.
Well, I'm glad you had an opportunity to share it, and that's fantastic. So props to you, to all of you, actually, in the DLL culture. So, Kate, I'm going to come back around to you, and I'm going to ask you the same questions. You've been doing what you're doing for a while. What keeps you excited and motivated, and who might have been your greatest mentor or mentor?
Well, Dan Cooper, now at Nova Tech, he got me in front of Global and allowed me to pitch at a national meeting, and I landed like 17 Globals then. That was really helpful. Rich Jaley got me in front of CDA because I trained his dealership. So those folks, Bill Frazier has been wonderful to me. Melanie Patterson, who I trained and now is my boss at Sharp for a relationship I have. That's an amazing situation. So I would, and then my business has never been as successful since I joined Stramaglio Consulting, and we've talked about that. The consortium has opened up. I'm on a conversation with Rick Taylor saying my name, or Ed McLaughlin. It blows my mind. I can't even. He's like Superman to me. But my story for work is I was training a million years ago global in Seattle, and this girl comes in, she's like 23, and she's like mascara in her face, and I was like, okay, Crystal, and get to work, and let's make a call. And she came up to me at the end of the training, and she goes, by the way, I foster 2 children. And I was like, ooh, I read the book by the cover wrong. And she goes, so sometimes I was late for that, but because of your training, I can now afford to let them take karate lessons. And I was like, check please, that's it, I'm done, that's all I need. So I know that my real job is helping sales executives have enough money to support their families. And if that isn't enough to make you excited to get to work, I don't really know what is. And that's how I explained to my kids, because I've been traveling since my daughter's been in 2nd grade. So I had to sort of share with her, mommy has to go because other families need her. And that's how I feel about it.
Well, that's a great summary of a great life so far, and so much more to do. And frankly, if you don't mind my pointing this out, all of you are consortium members, and you're my favorite. You demonstrate initiative, imagination, action, and results, and you do it with a tremendous amount of humility and yet dedication to being genuine and making people happy and comfortable. So my hat's off to you, and that's a great background I didn't know. So thank you. Appreciate you joining today and the consortium. And Jenna, so I'm going to ask you the same thing. I would like to add one other thing. You've had an interesting background, right? So you literally grew up in the business. I mean, literally grew up in the business. So you've been, to Japan. You've been involved with Japanese companies from the get-go. So I'm going to ask you to kind of flavor a little bit, your experiences and your mentors that go even to when you were 10 years old, if you can go back that far. What do you think all those experiences have lent to your ability to be able to be successful early?
So I have had a very unique experience and truly an upbringing in this industry. So, I tell people all the time, we grew up, my brother and I, with a copier in your office where we were, putting our butts on the glass or our hands and smushing our face on the glass. So we really, truly grew up with a copier in our house since day one. And I was lucky enough, obviously, to be trained by Kate and also be a part of Global back in 2005. And to this day, Frank Gaspari is going to be one of my most favorite people and mentors that I've had. He's taught me a lot very early on. I think aggressive is probably the number one word in a very passionate type of way. And he's always been a mentor, always been a friend, and he allowed me the opportunity to fail and succeed at COTG. And this is going to sound self-serving, Mike, a little bit, but to you at MWA, I had an enormous opportunity working alongside you at a very young age. So I did have the opportunity to travel internationally, to visit all sorts of dealers across the United States. And I have to tell you, each and every one of them welcomed me with open arms and have individually taught me a lot: how to conduct myself in a C-level meeting, how to demonstrate my ability to speak technically but also add value. And along the way, I can name mentors at every single dealership. And I feel very, very lucky and fortunate that I've had the opportunity to work alongside you. Obviously, Rick Taylor, at my time at Konica Minolta, and even previously, Jim DiMidio when he was independent at Miratech, and of course, when Konica Minolta acquired them as well. But I've had some fantastic mentors, and I have had the opportunity to fail, but also be surrounded by a large group of people that says, all right, fail, done, move on, get over it. It's like golf. It's the next shot. What are you going to do to make it better? How are you going to make that next sale? What are you going to do to fix the relationship? So I have had a very wonderful experience in a very short amount of time. So Mike, I got to tell you, when I was working for you, probably wouldn't name you as a mentor. But now, looking back, you've definitely
Wow,
been
that hurt.
an extraordinary mentor for me.
God,
Gavin knows.
That's painful.
I had to have a podcast
Kate,
to find that out.
So, for the record, Kate, Kate is right. No kidding. You expected us to be there when the sun wasn't even, the moon was still in the sky. Like, you wanted us to be there before.
No, he never expected us to go home.
All right.
But
on call
24/7. It was great, and I feel very grateful. But Kate's right. Kate is absolutely right. That is what's expected.
And by the way, I'm scarred for life thinking you actually did that to my copy machine in my home office.
Hey, you know what? We didn't break the glass. It was fine.
Jesus,
it was fine.
We didn't need to know that, but okay.
Well,
all right. So let's kind of turn around a little bit. So you've heard me say, many of you have heard me say this before, and I'd like to hear from all of you on this one. But one of the things that frustrates me with the industry is when people think there's some kind of noble cause to be negative, or some kind of responsibility to be overly critical. When they say things like, oh, HB did this, or someone did this, and frankly, all you have to do is read the Twitter things, and you don't need people telling you that. They're negative, right? Mm-hmm. And while there's not a lot of them, there are enough of them that can contaminate, someone's good and free thinking. So if you're actually very positive about the industry and you're standing there talking with somebody who's like, oh my God, doom, gloom, I got to sell, I got to get out, So we've all seen that gamut. And I really firmly believe, and even at my advanced stage, I've never been more excited about what we're looking at for the future of our business. Now, what that business is going to be, it's going to look different. It's going to be different. ConnectWise, DLL's got to change. Kate's processes and training have to change. But it will be better. That's my opinion. So I contaminated you in advance. But do you share that vision? Does DLL share that vision? So I'll start with you. You know, Shannon, you're an executive in this business. What do you say to the industry?
Yeah, so I guess a couple of things. I think that especially in the equipment finance, there's so much overlap within relationships, and many people work for different leasing companies. I fortunately have worked for one, but there's so many people, and we know so many people from some of our competitors. But I think that we all truly have built this community as leasing organizations and equipment finance companies. And there's enough business out there for all of us. And I think the relationships that we have with each other is we are sort of rooting each other on to be successful. And, and I think that we also are, some are more innovative than others and are doing different things. And I think that we like to learn from each other and grow our business. But I think that, it's funny. I respect all of our competitors, and they have their strengths and we have our strengths. But I think that none of us are out there negatively talking about our competition. I mean, and we are selling the value of our own organizations. So for me, it may be a little bit of a different perspective, but I certainly don't subscribe to that. I mean, I think that I work for the best organization, but that does not mean that I don't think that there's strong competition out there. And in some cases, they're beating us. And we got to find ways to, counteract that and figure out how to earn more business for ourselves. But there's so much opportunity out there, and especially with the way that our business is evolving from, MFPs and copiers to non-copier equipment and new things as we exit the pandemic, and new products and new services that we're looking to diversify, our leasing portfolio with. And I think there's so much opportunity out there for all of us that, I think we each say to each other, let the best salesperson win and the sales organization win. And I think, that's how I look at how we compete with our competitors.
Good, and I'm glad to hear you say that. And you live it, and DLL actually represents it extremely well. The world is what you make it. It's all about choices, right? So, and frankly, you, DLL, have a long history of doing some pretty smart and very brilliant things. Kate, I'm going to come back to you, and I'm going to add a question. Maybe you could lead with your thoughts on this as well as the other. It's been very, very difficult to find and train or hire people. Probably more difficult from what I understand today than it has been in years. So do you agree with that? And what advice do you have for people? And secondarily, how are you feeling about the business?
Well, in terms of the recruitment piece, I think sales managers should have a recruitment quota, just like salespeople have a salesperson quota. Then you're not reactionary. Oh my God, we have a position we have to fill. Anybody will do instead of the right person. So when I'm training sales management, I help them with that. Doesn't mean you have to use an outside recruiter. There are opportunities. And what's happening now with the younger generation, unlike Shannon, who smartly found the place where the culture fit her, they're more apt to just leave. And so you do have people, even if they're being successful at one dealership, may decide to go to another one, even though nothing was wrong. And so they're open to those opportunities. So there's real ways in which they can talk through LinkedIn and cell phones and et cetera, and initiate a conversation and a lunch and a tour so that when that position opens, they have somebody at the ready. That's what I think recruitment should be. In terms of the first question, I live in what I want to consider abundance. I believe in the secret, and which even talks about like always finding a parking space. I live near New York City. My husband's like, we'll never find a space. And I'm like, the secret, we're going to find a place right in the front. And almost always we find a place right in the front. I believe it ahead of time. So I'm a fan of that. I do say the copier rep is a dying breed, but the business technology sales executive is alive and flourishing. And if we lean in in the way we go after it, instead of just talking about copier leases, you open up the whole array, and there's so much more than what used to be the whole solution, which was the copier. I think our business is growing.
Great input. I love the parking lot analogy. That is awesome, or the parking spot. That's awesome. So Gavin, I'm going to give you a shot at this, and then Jenna, you can pick it up. So come on, Gavin.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. How you feeling about the industry? How you feeling about the
question?
industry?
I thought you were gonna.
Yeah. No.
I thought you were gonna change it up on me. Well, I wholeheartedly agree, Mike. That there's, and maybe it's that human condition that there's just some people that always look at the glass being half empty and immediately go negative. But I guess if you're solely focused on the past, then I guess maybe you could be negative. But if you're looking at how the business is evolving, the opportunities that, just taking the consortium members, just that small group right there, the amount of new technology, new opportunity that a dealer has at their fingertips, and just like Kate said earlier, maybe the copier rep, maybe that's a dying breed, but you have so much more available revenue opportunities out there that you just got to look at how things have changed and adapt, and there's so many ways you can be more successful than you were in the past.
I agree with you. And by the way, you bring up a really important point. All of you are consortium members, and I'm kind of humbled, actually, grateful by the fact that you found enough reasons to want to join. So, Kate, again, I know you've been a real advocate, and DLL, you stuck with us, and we're very patient while we got through the process. So I thank you for that. And Gavin, I think you hit the nail on the head. There are roughly 40 training, educational, and product companies that are outstanding in the consortium. So that alone should give a big signal that the future is brighter than ever. So Jen, I'm going to come back to you and ask you maybe a little bit of a twist on the question. You left, obviously, Konica Minolta, which is a print company primarily, and even though Forza was a solutions-based company, but you left what I would say would be more core for more future. So how are you finding that leap? Is it a quantum change for you? Was it what's new to you? What makes you go, holy cow, I wasn't prepared for that?
I feel like I'm, it's like a whole new world, but in the same area, right? So at Konica Minolta, you're right. It was a very, if you want to use the term, we're talking about that old copier rep. I think I was back in the day, those box pushers, right? And when I transitioned over to a Forza, more solution-based sell, it really helped me make the decision to move to ConnectWise. It was a very easy one. It was very natural. Konica Minolta with Forza and everything that they have under the all-covered solution, it's in a good spot. And I felt at that point in time, I was ready to take a different leap, right? To just shift the cube ever so slightly. So I'm still in the channel, but I have an entirely new passion for the industry that I only had a sliver of before I moved to ConnectWise. I knew people were doing managed IT. I knew dealers were really successful. I knew ConnectWise was an excellent solution for the dealers to consume and become very successful. They can either be aggressively successful or they can put a plan together and put in place to be successful over a period of time, 5-10 years. And actually, I was at the IBPI meeting and I was sitting next to John Schweitzer, right? And he's talking to these dealers and he's like, guys, if you're not in managed IT, I'm telling you right now, I've got a mathematical plan for you. And I know Kate's going to like this. Find a guy, right? Find a technology, cyber, IT, that it's a hard guy to find, but they're out there. Find the guy. And over a, call it 5-year period, to add an additional $7 to $8 million to your business, all you have to do is add 92 customers. And John's saying the stories. And finally, there's all these dealers around and they go away. And I said, John, is that true? He's like, yeah, of course it's true. What do you mean? He goes, this is historically speaking, if a dealer wants to get into managed IT, if they want to be successful, if they want to pivot from their core, what we used to be hardware focused, and really break into managed IT, ConnectWise has a mathematical solution for you to get you there with every program that you possibly need to make yourself successful. The hardest part is that first initial step for a dealer, right? And for me, as somebody who was used to like the 30, 60, 90-day plan or the 3, 6, 9-month plan for solution sales, however you want to break it down, and then to sit next to John and say, nope, we got a plan, we got a go-to-market strategy, all these dealers are successful and they're really, really good at it. All it did was I shifted that cube just a little bit, and it truly is an entirely new world. The dealer channel, the imaging channel, the print channel, whatever you want to call it, is no longer just print. It's no longer just hardware. These are true technology companies. They're high-tech companies. And I think for such a long time, I wasn't seeing that. And I can now see what the potential is for this channel, and it is enormous, and it is so fun, and I'm so happy to be where I am today. My path that led me here was just, it was perfect. Every step needed to be taken, and I'm happy to be where I am now with ConnectWise, but it definitely shifted that cube for me.
Well, that's an exciting little summation. I really like it because it is about excitement, and it's about taking all the skills you have forward. So I know we're coming out pretty much down on time here, but I had a couple of quick questions for you, and I'd like to maybe have you close out this segment of the show. When you look at the leaders that you mentioned before, the people that you suggested had mentored you or inspired you. So it's a two-part question, really. One is, do you believe in your heart of hearts that leaders are born or are leaders made? Can they be both, or are they just born? And what is the one quality that your favorite leaders have that just jumps out at you, that makes you think that person is that's why I believe that person is my greatest mentor? So I'll start with Shannon. Do you think they're born?
I think that there's a combination. I think there are leaders that are born, but I firmly believe that there are leaders that are made. And I think that there's a lot of people in this world who are hard workers and always striving to do better. But I think that there are some that challenge themselves to go out of their comfort zone and to they enjoy people, they enjoy collaboration, but most of all, they enjoy seeing people become successful. So I'm a believer of both. I don't know what the right answer to the question is, but I guess the right answer is what I think. And so for me, I think leaders can be made. And I think that, we talked a little bit about mentors earlier, and people with strong mentors and coaches can become great leaders. And I think even later in my career, I've learned that I mentor a lot of individuals in our organization, but I learn just as much from them as they probably take away from me, because things are changing. And I think I have to be able to see things from a different perspective. So I think both.
So born and refined, is that
maybe that's a good way to put it?
Okay.
Yes.
So Kate, you've seen them all. You've seen the beginning salespeople, the leaders, the managers, and what's your takeaway? Do you believe they're born and refined, or primarily born that way?
So I'm adopted, and I recently found my entire birth family. One of my sisters is a sales trainer, my biological sister. So we were like, wait a minute. And so I have both sides of the gamut. I was selling cherry tomato plants at 7 years old with a car. Like I'm a sales from the beginning, right? And my sister and brother are not like that I was adopted with. And 2 members of my biological family sisters are very out there and in sales. So I think there's a little of both. You can have a predisposition to something that's like an outlier, right? And then if it's cultivated, then that's part of it. The being like to be on a stage and like to do sales, I think you're born with that, and it can be stifled or encouraged. So I've really seen both sides of it. I believe that I'm where I am because my parents were both college professors and believed in education, but I was also, extraordinary good and bad from the beginning.
That is funny. Selling tomatoes, you said, or strawberries?
Carrying tomato plants, little 7-year-old with a cart, my dad walking behind me, and I wanted a nickel a plant. So, I mean, I've been selling since 7.
That's why I love these podcasts. That will forever be in my brain. So thank you for sharing that. So Jenna, how about you? How do you think?
I'm going to take a more definitive stand on this, I think. I think that leaders are born. I think that you have the chops or you don't. And very fine example, right, is me and my older brother. Now, don't get me wrong. He's extremely successful in his own right. He works for BMC. He's a sales guy, very successful. But we were raised on the same roof. Kate, to your point, right? So it's the Stramaglio show. And I got my older brother and myself. And if you follow our kind of path, our career path, I would say that to be a good leader, you have to be in the service of others too, right? You have to make sure that you're not just focused on you and your own success, but also your team's success and the company's success and the vision of that company coming to fruition. And entrepreneurial in spirit. It's either in you or it's not. My brother, very good. He's one of those sales reps, Kate, that he calls and calls. And you're like, I will buy whatever it is from you if you leave me alone. Go away. Right. So he's extremely successful. But I think definitely it's something that you're born with, and it's a very difficult skill. I think if you don't have it, it's hard to learn it, and you can read a lot of books about it. And if you don't have that fire and if you don't have that initiative to go out and lead, it's going to be a very difficult skill set to kind of learn and then project. So a little bit of a harder stance, I think, but to Shannon's point, it's my opinion. Take it for what it's worth.
Well, it's worth a lot, and a lot of people will appreciate hearing it. The one thing I would add, and then I have a kind of closing question for you. And so, Gavin, forgive me, I want to make sure the ladies get their time. But one of the things that always strikes me is the empathic leader, and being an empath. So whether you're born with it, in my opinion, when some people are more inclined to be leaders, right? Just because they have this empath kind of DNA. And if I've been intrigued by the empaths. There's a literal empath definition. You should kind of look it up. It's really kind of cool and interesting. It's not just empathy, it's an empath. And some people really have that. It's almost like you literally feel and see and think things that people close to you just pick up that vibe. And I've always found that leaders, real successful leaders, they have that kind of empathic moment or personality. So, I encourage the audience, I encourage everyone to study what that means. It's not just empathy, but it's literally some kind of DNA thing. And it kind of goes back to Jenna's point, which is, if you have that, you're a born leader, right? More or less. You can only refine it and get better and better. So with that, that's just my opinion. It's my show, so I'll share it. What do you think? Is it cool? So final question, and I'll start with Shannon again. You've been a wonderful employee, representative of DLL, not just today, but throughout your career. What message would you want to send to the industry or the people that you work with, either internally or externally, regarding DLL and the future? What message would you want to say and send?
Gosh, I don't think I was prepared for that question. I got to think about that for a second. I think that we're always trying to do the right thing for our customers and their customers. And we know very much that our business is very dependent on us making things easy, efficient, and the ability for our dealers and for their customers to acquire equipment, and then our dealers grow their business. So I think we do make mistakes sometimes, but I think it's important for everybody to know that we really do care. We want to see the industry be successful. We're very excited about the opportunity for all of the industry to, embrace this diversification that we've talked a little bit about earlier, and that we're there to support them. And I think that we appreciate our partners, their customers, and we realize how much of a heavy lift that is. And we're always trying to put our customers' experiences first when we make decisions. Sometimes we're not always successful, but when we're not, we do really take time to go through a lessons learned, and we try to do better the next time. And I think that with us coming through 2022 and things getting more back to normal, that I think that our industry is evolving, and it's just a source of true excitement and opportunity for us and for our customers. So we're very excited about what's to come.
Fantastic. And DLL certainly is a great culture. So I'll support you in that, but I would also add probably a little bit extra emphasis. We do that right across America for the Jillian Fund. It's about to come up again, and you guys have always been there to support us. And Gary Rajilski actually gets his butt into an RV for some number of miles, and that's
Oh, he's still talking about last year with no air conditioning.
yeah, that was a little tough. Well, that's a whole nother story, especially if you knock the air conditioner off. But anyway, wonderful company. You guys are wonderful people. We're grateful for that kind of support. So Jenna, I'm going to come to you, and then Kate, you can take us home.
Yep. So, I'm a month into ConnectWise, guys. So it's my 30-day mark right now today. So I'm a month in, and I got to tell you, one of the things that I think is so important for ConnectWise and for the dealer channel is that they call dealers partners, right? Everybody talks about, oh yeah, dealers are a partner, it's our client, whatever. But it is intrinsic in ConnectWise employees that you treat the dealer as a true partner. And it is so refreshing to be able to have a conversation with our internal employees that treat the dealer as an extension of ConnectWise, right? We want to know where they want to go. We can guide them to help them break into cybersecurity space or break into managed IT, and really have those discussions that you think about every day, right? They're the Russia-Ukraine problem. It's something that's personal that we're seeing every single day on the cyber side, but it affects businesses. It affects dealers. It affects what they're going to do today and tomorrow and how they're going to protect themselves and their clients. So I think the most important thing, and something that's so true and near and dear to my heart, is that if the dealer grows, this channel is going to grow, right? It's going to continue to pivot. It's going to continue to become way more than it was, Mike, when you were slinging copiers back in the 70s and 80s. It is nowhere near that. And I cannot wait to see where this industry is going to be in the next 30 years, right? And Kate, if you're still around, maybe you're going to train my kid. I don't know what's going on, but we'll see. But I'm very excited to see where it's going.
Thank you, Jenna. And I agree with you on that. ConnectWise is in a perfect position. So Kate, how about you?
So what is my look towards the future?
Yep. What's the one thing you would want to represent about you and what you're doing and Kate Kingston Group and the future?
It seems to be after I do the workshop or when I'm doing a sample pitch, people go, look at how passionate she is. Look at the energy she's putting in. Sometimes we don't know what she's saying, but she seems energetic about it. So that seems to be what people are resonate with when they're trying to have people act like me, which there's more than enough of me to go around. But the idea that the authentic interest in the customer and using the customer's language so that they understand you better is how I've built my business and what customers want to talk about. They don't care about your dealership. They care about what you can do for the dealership. And I think that, and Jen, I want to talk to you after because I have a dealership that needs ConnectWise. That if we can have the opportunity to work hard, I say at KTG, 60 minutes of work an hour. That's what we're doing here, right? We can have fun, but let's get it. And I think that is how we work here and what I'm trying to impart to salespeople. You can make a lot of money at this job. You got to love the kill, because I love to take down a customer, but then serve them once they're your client.
Brilliant. And believe me, everyone understands exactly what it is that you're saying. I've seen it, I've lived it, and you get your message across in a fun way. You know, the other thing, you know how little lessons, it's not that you actually forget them. You may not ever actually use them or thought about them. But when we did the Executive Connection Summit last January, one of the things that I found really amazing and beautiful about Kate was she came to us and she said, "I want the welcome desk. I'm on the welcome desk. I own the welcome desk." In all my years of having trade shows, I never once had anybody come up to me and say, "I want the welcome desk." And I thought to myself, you got it, kid, go. You know, it's like one of those things. And then I thought about it, and then I saw what she was doing, and you had more success signing dealers up from the welcome desk. At the welcome desk.
The judge was like, "Oh yeah, you," and I was like, "Yeah, me," and I was at the desk.
You know, most people run away from the welcome desk. Hey, I just talked to Doug Patassi. He's gonna fantastic, and that's the difference, Kate. Right there, that's the difference. So, Gavin, do you have anything to add? Otherwise, I got a couple of closing thoughts, and then we're going to end the show on a high note, Friday note.
I guess I would just add on the forward thinking from Stramaglio Consulting's perspective, and I hope I get the message right. Otherwise, Michael slapped me on the back of the head. But you know, we're here to no physically. Come on, Mike. Don't act like you don't smack us around. Anyway, you know, from the Stramaglio Consulting perspective, our mission is to help this channel. You know, there is so much change, so much opportunity. This is why Mike started the consortium, brought these people together, and that's our mission. Our mission is to we sincerely, Mike, Hero, and I want to help change and grow this industry. So,
and I would say
like to add that to the end.
That's
Mike
actually a true statement and something that I know we're all committed to, and I'm grateful that you and Hero are, you know, totally sold on that thought process. It's about floating all boats, right? So rising tide floats all boats. Absolutely. So I'd like you to think about, and more importantly, I'd like the audience to be thinking about some things. All of you have been fantastic. It's been a wonderful learning experience. I prefer not to think about Jenna sitting on the copier, but I'll get a little bit of therapy. I'll get over it. But I think your insight and your wisdom are critically important for the industry to learn from and listen to. I'm sure that you'll get editorial rights as Grant does his magic with the podcast. But 2 or 3 things I'd leave you with. Number one, we are committed to doing the Executive Connection Summit in January of 23. So please be watching for more information for that. And Kate, as you know, we're going to be coming to people and asking for assistance and support and helping the architect the agenda. So Shannon and Jenna, same thing. So please be looking for information as that comes forward. The second thing is we will be doing the ride, and Gavin, I believe the dates are June 17th through 24th. So June 17th 24th. So we'll be riding across the country 24th. Again. It's going to be a little later because of the year and things that are going on. So please, help us communicate and seek support for the ride. We're going to be visiting dealers along the way. Barry Simon and Sam Stone and a bunch of people in between. This is Jenna's favorite event for me. So she's been so thrilled for the last 10 years as we've done this. So thank you, Jenna, for your support. That was just a shameless plug. So thank you very much. So the last thing that I would ask you to really think about, especially for the ladies, it seems to me that you have a unique talent and opportunity in inspiring people. So your successes are clear. Your wonderful career paths are rich with great experience and wisdom. So please, take the extra effort. I'm not sure sometimes that men or women really understand their capability of being able to inspire people on a daily basis. So I would ask you, since I have the three of you on this call and Gavin, please be thinking about how you can help educate people like me that can train and teach people better from your perspective, be it female or executive. It certainly helps the industry, it helps us, and never, ever, ever forget the need to inspire belongs to everyone. And sometimes I think we forget that on a daily basis. So just think about the things you shared here today. Trust me, they're extraordinarily beneficial and they will be communicated and shared frequently. So with that, I'm going to close out this event by saying thank you. It's been an honor. Shannon, you did fantastic, so appreciate you hanging in there with us. And Kate,
Thank you.
and Gavin, your makeup sucks. So we'll leave you with that thought. What was this, Jenna? What's he need?
Just
I
for
tried.
men. He needs
Just
a
for
little
men.
just for
Yeah,
men
go
down
for
there. Well, looking a little gray.
Yeah, we
Wow,
saved
we're
it
going to
for
throw
the
this in
end.
at the end, are we?
Yes.
We're just going to all pile in. We're all going to pile
Anyway,
in.
I really appreciate it. Grant, take
Yeah,
us
keep
home,
the
buddy.
copiers